This is Dianne Andrews in black and white. The issues you don't want to talk about. The arts and entertainment you need to know. And now here's your host, Dianne Andrews.
Thank you, audience. Thank you all for being here today, and welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. And I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. You see this sign? It is about us, you and us. I love us. I love my audience. I love my audience out on YouTube. I love my audience in 50 parishes in the state of Louisiana. And I want to tell you, I'm very remiss. I have not mentioned my 5 counties in Mississippi. And I want to give a shout out to the Hawthorns out there who watch me in Liberty, Mississippi. So thank you for watching Mississippi, and keep on watching Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Today we have a very interesting and a very compelling show that we're going to do for you. It is a case that involves Apple. And when I say Apple, I'm sure everyone out there knows the case I'm talking about. It is about the unhacking or unlocking of the iPhone with the San Bernadino terrorist, is the one that you've heard about mostly in the news. But there are many other cases. I did a show on San Bernadino terrorists, and that is on YouTube. All my shows go to YouTube and Vimeo now. But we have a case in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where we are headquartered. And that is the Brittany Mills case. And our district attorney is here to talk about that case. But there are cases in Arkansas, there are cases in New York, there are cases all over the country about privacy versus the unlocking of the iPhone. We have one person here who is against unlocking of the phone for the government when it comes to murder. Now, I don't know about privacy versus murder, but we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with this compelling story. Come back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White.
Order your copies now of Dianne Andrews' latest books, Third Man Out, a suspenseful mystery by Dianne Andrews, and Gumbo for the Heart, 25 stories of faith, hope, and charity, both available now on Amazon.com.
Hello, my name is Debbie. Welcome to Debbie's Bridal, a Formal Affair.
My name's Raven. I work at Debbie's Bridal, and she makes your dreams come true.
Thank you. Thank you for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White in this very compelling story, privacy versus murder. And as the opponent to the case, Anthony Stewart to my right, who is a Southern University law student, he's going to be on the side of Apple. And to his right is Skip Shear from Shear Vista, which is an IT outsourcing company headquartered in Baton Rouge, but he's a Southern California guy. So I think he's trying to do some customers out there so he can go back and forth. He fell in love with a Southern Louisiana girl, and he likes that Southern LA, whether it's Louisiana or Los Angeles, California. And I'm very happy to have our district attorney here. We have a case here in Baton Rouge. Hillar Moore III is our district attorney of the 19th Judicial District of East Baton Rouge Parish. He started his career as a DA investigator. He has 40 years in criminal justice. He went to LSU and went on to Southern University Law Center here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He is a second-time DA. He is on his second term. Now, district attorneys are not term limited as political mayors and governors, not yet. Let's talk a little bit about, everyone should be familiar, I'll just give you a brief history on the San Bernadino murderers last year who killed 14 people. The name of the murderers were Tashin Malik and Sarud Farouk, her husband. They came in on a K-1 visa, she did. Her husband was from Detroit, Michigan, but lived in California, in San Bernardino, and worked at a government agency there in San Bernardino. These people had invited them in to even do a baby shower for her when she was pregnant. They came back and basically assassinated 14 people and hurt many more. And that was last year. We have a show out there about it if you want to look it up on YouTube or Vimeo on Dianne Andrews in Black and White. They found their phone, and there's a big case whether to unlock the phone or not. Now, the phone has been unlocked, but the government had to spend $1 million of our taxpayer money to have that phone unlocked by a third party. The CEO for Apple, Tim Cook, had said that that phone was not hackable. But that phone turned out to be hackable. But why would government have to pay $1 million? We can't afford that here in Baton Rouge. Tell us about the case with Brittany Mills.
Well, as you know, a little bit over a year ago, Ms. Mills, who was almost full-term pregnant at the time, apparently answered the door and had a short...
You'll see her picture on the screen. You'll see her pregnant.
Had a short conversation, and within seconds was shot multiple times. She died. They attempted to keep their child alive. I think the child survived probably 4 or 5 days, and eventually died of the lack of oxygen due to the shooting. And we've investigated that case. The city police have investigated that case. We've done all the subpoena work that we can to get subscriber information from AT&T, subjects like that. We've also looked at and received a search warrant for her cloud information that her phone had backed up to the cloud. But unfortunately, for the 3 months prior to her death, her murder, her phone had not backed up to the cloud. So all of the information, the critical information, the one that's really fresh, is on the device itself, the phone itself. And we issued a search warrant to Apple for that information. And within 2 days, they responded indicating that, as you know, as we already knew, that since it's operating in iOS 8.2 or later version, that they cannot get into that phone because they designed it that way and advertised it that way, that even a search warrant issued by a judge could not allow them to get into that phone. So now we're at a point where we have potential valuable information, fresh information that we're not able to get, not able to follow up on, and it's real frustrating.
You will see the picture of Ms. Mills on the screen, 8 months pregnant, right before. It's a Facebook picture of our source for that picture, but her daughter, she has a 9-year-old daughter also, who, what I read, I don't know if it's true or not, was also in the house. That may not be true, but she does have a 9-year-old. There was a person of interest that was cleared of it. He was a football player from LSU, but he had nothing to do with the incident, is what the information has come out to say as current. Now, tell us what your point of view is on this, Mr. Stewart.
Well, first of all, I actually do have a heart, and I hate to hear about cases like that. And even terrorists. I like to consider myself a patriot as well. But the problem is that there is an evidentiary privilege that exists, typically between two people in the United States. We see that with what's known as the ecclesiastical privilege, you know, where people may confess or confide to a member of the clergy. There's also the spousal privilege, which is a little bit different because the other spouse on the receiving end can choose whether to testify or not in a lot of instances. But my thing is that there is an expectation of privacy, and it is a cornerstone that's been established since 1813 in the state of New York.
New York has a case also.
Well,
similar to Brittany Mills, so does Arkansas. It's all over the country.
And so for me, the debate is, you know, I hate that these crimes happen. I hate that you know, that it seems like you have to go after justice.
But Mr. Stewart, this will be a part of life. These crimes will happen.
Well, it's a part of life, but so is evidentiary privilege and the expectation of privacy that our cornerstone of our country is built on.
So at the end, let the DA.
Clearly different. His opinion would change dramatically immediately when someone in his family is killed. It would happen automatically. And so you really have to look at this. You're talking about evidentiary privilege. You're talking about people. We're talking about a device, an object. So it is the only thing, entity, business, pick something. White House, Congress, it's the only thing that's beyond the reach of a search warrant. And so that
is that in Congress or anywhere to change the law?
There's 2 different bills right now. One is to say, for the most part, that you're not allowed to sell, lease, do business in that type of phone unless you are, the phone is able to be retrieved, the information is retrieved. Another one is a clearinghouse type of bill that has to do with, this is going to continue to happen. Every new version of the phone, something else is going to happen. Some other new software or program that surely over my head is going to come about. And you know, we want to know how can we continue to access that.
And let's talk about that with Skip, because at the end of the day, we paid government taxpayer money, a third party, to unlock that phone. So it is hackable. I'm a BlackBerry person. I'm not an iPhone person, so I still might use my BlackBerry. So tell me, Skip, how did they do it?
Well, sure. I mean, and there's a few details. There aren't a lot. Now, they have not acknowledged exactly how. They haven't acknowledged exactly who. Some people have speculated there's an Israeli company, Celebrite, that they think may have done it, but nobody's acknowledged anything specific. They've implied that it really was, the solution was fairly specific to the iPhone 5C with iOS 9 on it. And there's a couple of ways that they may have done it, and one probably is more likely than another. For example, in some cases there has been a direct software hack. You know, you plug it in and somebody's found a hole in the system and through a variety of different code efforts and gotten into it. That's probably unlikely as late as this iOS version is. You can do it physically.
Because before that, we did a show together on hacking where I had a college student whose phone had been hacked by her boyfriend. It was very easy to hack the iPhone before this version, wasn't it?
You have to go back a few versions, and it depends somewhat on the settings. Most people have it set. The big issue is, of course, two protections. One is, as you put in your code, your password, after a while, after about 5 of those, it begins to delay between the codes. That's a hassle. But the real issue is, after 10 of those, if you have it set, it wipes the whole phone. So another technique that most people think is most likely, in fact the Washington Post point blank said they did it this way, is there's a chip on there that keeps the counter for that, how many tries have been done. You can physically pull that chip out in certain, at least in certain phones, and make a copy of it. It's called NAND mirroring, N-A-N-D mirroring. So they mirror it and they put it back and they try it 5 or 6 times or whatever they're comfortable with. Then they go back and they do a reset. So it's kind of like a save on a video game. You go back to where you were and they kind of kept trying it. Now that is the best guess as to how they approach this, although even that has to be done with care, because one mistake, you know, and you ruin the data, you ruin access to it, the whole shot. The goal is to get to the password, the ID password on it, which is what's used for that encryption. And so,
but at the end of the day, it was hackable.
Sure.
However difficult it was, or not difficult it was.
And now another conundrum is, now Apple wants to know how they did it because they want to fix it. And
they're not going to tell
saying,
them.
I'm not sure I want to tell you because we may need this again in that particular context.
In fact, the FBI is working in the Arkansas case. Are they helping us here at all with the Baton Rouge case?
No, actually, the Baton Rouge case, I think, is the #1. The Arkansas, I think the prosecutor there spoke too soon. I think that he got word from the FBI that, hey, we will eventually help you.
Right.
I've been with the FBI Director Comey in Washington and New York, and he's well aware of the Brittany Mills case. The FBI is working on this case with us. So right now we're in that dilemma where they do have the technology. Do they have the
phone, or do we have the phone?
No, we have the phone.
We have the phone.
That phone's not going anywhere until I know for sure that I'm able to get into that phone. I've had people call me from all over, Israel, Italy, Canada. Hey, I can break into your phone. And no, not
at what cost?
Because if I make a mistake, I'll never get into that phone. I don't want that to happen for the Mills family. So the FBI, we're on the wait list. They did indicate they want to work with law enforcement. I believe everything that Skip says, and that's the way I think they got into the phone. I do believe they're afraid to give me the access to that phone, because if they did, and let's say I retrieved information that led to an arrest, I would then be required to give up that to a defense lawyer, to the defendant, to let him know how I got in, so he can check to see what I did, make sure I didn't manufacture things, which we would do. So I think they're really, and I think there are other things that they're working on, and they're afraid that if they release it to me, Apple will fix the problem. But again, you know, we're going to eventually move on to another phone, and we're going to be looking at a different system to hack into that phone.
Another way to hack that
phone. So the problem is, the real problem, the street problem, is that bad guys know exactly what's going on.
That's right.
And you can listen to prison phone calls, you can talk to prisoners. They'll tell you, do not give your password out to anyone. Make sure you set up the phone to where no one can do it. So what they are doing, they're hiding behind a phone as a shield, laughing, knowing that we can't get into the phone. And you know, it's not good. It's frustrating.
To me, in a way, Tim Cook has egg on his face, because he said in February, this phone is not hackable. And the phone is hackable. It was unlocked.
Well, there was a 60 Minutes episode where they interviewed a few hackers in Berlin and so forth. They basically said everything's hackable.
That's right. I'm an old programmer. I was with IBM as a programmer.
In my mind, I read everything Apple put on their website about this, and I really think there's a way to keep both sides happy, although admittedly money may be the problem.
Yeah.
In the sense that his biggest concern, of course, is, and it's somewhat I understand it completely, is he doesn't want a master unlocking key
Right,
out there.
right.
But in my thinking, you could he said it would take about 4 to 6 programmers, 2 to 4 weeks to create the code.
Tim Cook, is that what
Tim Cook said that.
From Apple.
In
the
my
CEO.
mind, to turn off the unlock feature, I would think would take less than that, but that's as a programmer. But I don't see why you couldn't put them in a room, fly them to Belize, put them in a room,
Yeah.
write the code,
Right.
get it unlocked, and then destroy all the code.
Right.
Now, that would mean each time they have a case, they'd have to rewrite it, but that way
Right.
it no longer
There's
exists.
no privacy issue. What do you think of that, Mr. Stewart?
Hey, look, if the government wants to do it, they're going to have to do it on their own and not rely on Tim Cook to release it.
Right, but that's what he's saying to
yeah,
do.
if you bring somebody to justice around what I view to be a sacred understanding of privacy and security, and you go around that, then I don't have an issue with that.
But that's completely unworkable. So I have a phone in Baton Rouge. I'm going to have to pay $1 billion to get into that one phone. I have 76 others, 100 others waiting. So every time I have to do it, I have to pay someone $1 million to get it. It's completely unworkable.
If it's for the greater good, you don't look at, to me, this is for the greater good to help find a person who may murder somebody tomorrow. It could have been a random nutcase who came to her door and shot her. It could have been somebody she knew very well,
may
which would
set
be in the
someone
phone.
free.
Either way,
But the
you would
information
know.
may set someone free that may be a suspect.
Right.
So, I mean, it works both
that
ways.
could be the case. I mean, we do that with genetics. I mean, but
So you
know,
still agree with Tim Cook? If it's on case-by-case basis, on the way that Skip said could possibly be done, where you throw away the code after.
Well,
so
not everybody, so this is the thing. And again, I understand what Mr. Moore's position is that the evidentiary privilege is between persons, but a corporation is still a group of people based on Citizens United. So there's still this relationship. And what I'm saying is that, like the spousal privilege, where the spouse can decide whether they're going to give up information or not on the other, that's what a company should have the discretion to do. So another cell phone company with a security code, if
well,
their
Tim
CEO,
Cook could have said, we'll try to unhack it.
he could have.
He could have.
Now that should have been, but
help the government.
he's dug in the sand. He's he's hunkered down, and he wants to protect this relationship. And I think that as far as
That's
our
why
greater
their
ideals
stocks
are
are down. What
concerned,
is it, 10 or 15% the last couple of
maybe
quarters?
so, but sometimes our ideals are not cheap, and it's unfortunate, but it happens.
And my thinking is that, particularly once he did it once or twice, it could be arranged in such a way that Apple gets compensated, but it's not going to cost $1.3 million a shot.
Right.
I mean, they're the coders and so forth. They ought to be compensated for their time because they're a business. But I would think it could be fairly reasonable, particularly if your only goal is to flip the switch on the 10 times unlocking capability.
Yeah.
But then you wipe it each time. You make sure it just doesn't exist anywhere else, and conceivably both sides could be happy. So that's
I mean, I have 100 phones about right now that cannot get into. And
For
so
other cases here in the
cases
city.
as well,
And I'm sure all cities are like this around the
You
country.
go across the country, we're trying to keep a list now
Right.
of the types of cases, child molestation, human trafficking.
I do a show on that next
extortion.
week, yeah.
I mean, you name it, the phones are out there waiting to get into. And this is a means of communication. This is how these people operate.
Right.
You and I operate by phone. All of us operate by phone.
Right.
And so now, you're
10 years
cutting-
ago, we knew everybody's number. Now you know nobody's number. You hit the address book and you get it.
So I'm prevented. And, in this case, with Ms. Mills, let's say I can't get into the phone, and let's say I make an arrest on someone based on whatever that information would be. If I'm that defense lawyer, if I'm him, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take that phone and I'm gonna say, the real killer's inside this phone. He tried to get into that phone and he couldn't. You know why? Because he knows the real guy's right here. He's gonna use that phone against me, and it's gonna happen
That's
in
true.
every case that we have.
That's a good
And
point. What do you
it's the
think of that
same
in
as
the
a
courtroom?
defendant.
Well, I mean,
That'd be a smart lawyer that did that way, and
Well,
they
sure.
will.
I mean, there are lawyers that will try that. But my question is, how do we prosecute people before these phones? I mean, eventually the act has to be committed, and there was a way to prosecute before. So not everything. I mean, every element of a
But
crime
we weren't
doesn't
so
have to be
tied, like we
established.
just said, to our cell phone then. Our lives revolve around, if we lose
even-
the phone, you're dead these days. You can go nowhere.
But even then, I mean, somebody could have just come up with their conspiracy in church and it would have been protected. I mean,
but that's
so-
going to be far and few in between. Everybody's got
Well,
something in that cell phone.
But everybody has something, but eventually you have to commit the act.
Right.
There has to be other evidence available too. It can't just be all just like,
Well, I'm sure
you
there
eventually
is
have
other
to commit
evidence.
the act.
Unfortunately, in this case,
It's on, that's
the
it.
evidence is at the threshold of a door. There's nothing else. There's no other.
With the
things that
lady
occur.
lying,
You are
dying at
Yeah,
that door.
and it is unfortunate.
That is, and this is just one case. I mean, there are many other cases where everything is done only by a cell phone, and you do have expectations of privacy, then you don't. I mean, we have people. We send military folks overseas to fight for our rights and what we do, and one is privacy, but the other is also access for what they're fighting for, to do the right thing for the right reason for both sides. And this is something that Congress is going to really, which they are, have to step into and regulate one way or the other. This is a worldwide problem, not just United States, and other countries like China, Korea, they're actually going down the path as we speak, as in France.
Now, I read something in investigating this. In 2014, Obama signed some act about phones being transportable from one carrier to another one, so you had to be able to unlock it. Are you familiar with that act?
Not right off.
Yeah, it was in 2014, and I've got some information. We can go on break. I'll show it to you. That I was wondering if it could fit under that guise.
I think we would have fit it by now if it had been there. But I'm confident the FBI is going to eventually give me the technology, and we'll eventually get into that phone. But as you know, investigative-wise, you always want to do it close to the time,
right?
Because things get stale. People move on.
The further away from the murder, we're already over a year.
And, you know, right now I have Ms. Mills's mother and family, and it's tough to look at them to say, you know, have you gotten to the phone yet? Has the FBI called you yet? No. It's got to be tough for them to sleep. I know it's got to be tough for that young girl.
It's the 9-year-old
wanting
daughter.
to know that the potential that the possible killer is in the phone. That's frustrating to look at.
Very frustrating. Anthony, from your in law school, have you and professors, has Apple become a part of any discussions there, and what do most people think?
No, I mean, what's become more of a discussion for us is how you actually have evidence filmed by phones of police brutality and things of that sort, and there is no conviction yet still. So what difference does it make that you have the evidence available if people are not going to come up with a bill of indictment or not? So that's how we feel about this.
That's on my Black, White, and Blue Lives Matter show with the chief of police.
Well, sure. So, I mean, here you have clear case evidence, and you couldn't come away with anything. So, you know, a lot of people feel like in private discussions, what difference does it make that you know, you're going to have access to it anyway? Because there's no
But
there's
it does
no
make a difference. Now, they, of course, couldn't divulge what they found, but I understand something was found on that San Bernardino killer's phone. You can't tell us what it is, because then you...
Well, and in the case with ISIS terrorists, they usually declare their loyalty to ISIS.
Right.
And it usually doesn't have to be a hackable scenario. They'll do it on social media.
Well, just
for
like
everybody
Egypt,
to see.
you know,
so
the Egypt
you establish
air.
the intent, the specific intent,
you know,
right
the
there
plane
based
that went
on
down
the
last
declaration.
night, the Egypt airplane. I was in Cairo in 2012. Me and my husband, I was married at the time, and we were there when, in September 2012, was when Benghazi, Libya was going on. In fact, I'm doing a show on that. We couldn't get out of the airport for 5 days. You know, Cairo, a lot of people don't know Libya is in Africa, and it's right next to Egypt. And we couldn't get out of the Cairo airport. In Cairo, it's 14 million people. We went out, armed guards, get out of this airport, we'll let you know when it reopens. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. And I want to tell Chief Deputy Colonel Edmondson, all our great policemen out there, happy National Police Week. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White.
Hello, my name is Debbie. Welcome to Debbie's Bridal, a Formal Affair.
My name is Raven. I work at Debbie's Bridal, and she makes your dreams come true.
Order your copies now of Dianne Andrews' latest books, Third Man Out, a suspenseful mystery by Dianne Andrews, and Gumbo for the Heart, 25 stories of faith, hope, and charity, both available now on Amazon.com.
Thank you for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White in this very compelling debate on Apple versus the government. So is there anything you would like to leave with us, because we're going to be shutting it down in a few minutes, Mr. Stewart, Anthony?
Actually, yes. I realize that it's easy for me to make an ideological argument based on a conviction and that I have, and I understand that I don't have the awesome responsibility that Mr. Moore has. I realize that there are victims involved, but it is an ideological understanding for me that I do believe in this cornerstone, and that if a CEO chooses to protect what was expected of him in terms of security and privacy, that we're going to have to work around that and have to spend the resources, even if
And I
even
think
if it's a
that
great cost.
this generation, the younger, the 20s generation, is more into the privacy and anti-government. What do you think about it, Skip? And then we're going to leave it with.
Well,
Hillar Moore.
my thoughts are, if I had to choose, I certainly would say that life, trumps privacy from my standpoint. But I still feel like there's a way to meet in the middle. At least I haven't heard an answer from Tim Cook that makes sense to me. He's not returning my calls for some reason.
He's a little busy being
I
the
don't get
CEO
it.
of Apple, and their
well,
stock's going down. He just invested, what, $1 billion in DD over in
give or
Japan?
take. Yeah, give or take. But I understand his concern about any kind of code getting out there that is a cracker, ruins their whole security. I just haven't heard a reason why they can't do it in a very enclosed and guarded way that can still
On a case-by-case
protect that
basis,
long-term. And I
Let
think they can do
me
it
leave it
reasonably.
with Hillar, and then we're going to have to close it
Sure.
down. We're running out of time.
Well, I mean,
Thank you.
understand issues, respect them, but to
Right.
live in a free society, you have to give up some of your rights sometimes. So right now, you live in a home,
Right.
and your home is protected. No one can get into your home unless there's a search warrant, but your phone is not such protected. So
When
that's
does
that
it matter of
is a big,
this
that is a
case?
big difference. If
Yes.
I can get in your home, but I cannot get into your phone, that's just not correct.
Anyone having any evidence that may lead to the conviction or the finding of someone who may be a suspect, please call the district attorney's office, or what do you want them to do? Crime Stoppers,
Remain
okay.
anonymous at Crime Stoppers. We'll take any information we can.
We're going to close it down. And a lot of people know who watch Dianne Andrews in black and white, as our DA does. He keeps up with Dianne Andrews' show, he told me, and I appreciate that. At the end of the show, I do a ritual many times that says if everyone lit just one little candle, what a bright world this would be. When we talk about cases like this, it's even more compelling to try to shine a light on important things that make a difference in your life and in other people's lives, if I can light the candle. We'll just do two today. So everyone go out and try to make a difference in someone else's life, and that will make a difference in your life. Thank you for watching Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and see you next week.
Hello, my name is Debbie. Welcome to Debbie's Bridal, a Formal Affair.
My name is Raven. I work at Debbie's Bridal, and she makes your dreams come true.